Your snake plant looks perfectly fine, the leaves are upright, the color seems normal, and nothing looks obviously wrong. But something is quietly failing beneath the surface, and the standard advice you have already tried is not touching the real problem. There are 5 hidden issues that most growers never check, and at least one of them is almost certainly the reason your plant is slowly losing the fight. Welcome to Plantier Lab, where smart growers discover plant ideas that actually make sense. Snake plants are one of the most forgiving plants you can grow, which is exactly what makes diagnosing them so difficult. When a sensitive plant struggles, the signs are obvious. But when a snake plant starts to fail, it often continues looking acceptable for weeks or even months before the damage becomes visible. Most growers check the obvious things: watering frequency, light levels, drainage holes. And when those look fine, they assume the plant is fine too. That is the exact mistake that lets the real problem keep running. Subscribe to Plantier Lab for more practical plant ideas like this one. Stay with this video because the 5th problem on this list is the one almost nobody considers, and it is often the most damaging of all. Here is the core problem with diagnosing a snake plant. Because it is built to survive drought, low light, and neglect, it does not send obvious distress signals the way more sensitive plants do. It holds water in its thick leaves, maintains its upright posture, and keeps a decent color even when the root system is under serious stress. By the time the leaves start yellowing, softening at the base, or collapsing inward, the actual problem has usually been building for a long time. This means that if you are reacting to what you can see, you are almost always reacting too late. The real diagnostic work with snake plants happens before the visible symptoms arrive. And it happens in places most growers never look. Not the leaves, not the light, not even the watering schedule. The 5 hidden problems in this video are all root adjacent, soil adjacent, or environment adjacent issues that stay invisible until significant damage is already done. Once you understand how to check for these, you will have a far stronger chance of catching decline early and reversing it before the plant loses the ability to recover. The first hidden problem is one that catches even experienced growers off guard, and it is this. A snake plant can become dangerously root-bound while still looking perfectly composed above the soil line. Root-bound simply means the root system has filled the pot so completely that there is no longer enough open soil to hold moisture, deliver nutrients, or allow the roots to breathe between waterings. In most plants, root-bound stress shows up quickly as wilting, yellowing, or rapid drying. In a snake plant, the thick leaf structure masks that stress so effectively that the plant can appear healthy for a surprisingly long time after the roots have run out of room. What actually happens in a root-bound snake plant is a slow compression of function. Roots begin circling the inside of the pot, sometimes forming a tight, coiled mass that physically restricts water movement through the soil. Water starts moving through the pot faster than it should, not because drainage is too good, but because the root mass itself has displaced most of the absorbent soil. You water the plant, the water runs through almost immediately, and the roots never get an adequate drink. The plant starts drawing on the stored moisture in its own leaves, which is why root-bound snake plants often show subtle wrinkling or very slight loss of firmness in the lower leaves long before any color change appears. To check for this, lift the plant gently out of its pot. If you see a dense white or pale yellow mass of roots with very little visible soil, or if roots are visibly circling the base or pushing out of drainage holes, the plant needs more space. Moving it into a pot that is one size larger, no more, allows the roots to expand without placing the plant in excess soil that holds too much moisture. Refresh the soil with a well-draining mix and water thoroughly after repotting. Most snake plants recover steadily once the root system has room to function again. The second hidden problem is one that builds so gradually that most growers never connect it to their plant's decline, and that is mineral and salt accumulation in the soil. Every time you water a snake plant with tap water, you are introducing trace amounts of dissolved minerals, chlorine compounds, fluoride, and other additives that the plant cannot fully absorb or process. In small quantities and over short periods, this is not a serious concern. But over months and years of regular watering in the same pot with the same soil, These compounds accumulate at the root zone. The soil chemistry slowly shifts. What was once a neutral, well-balanced growing medium gradually becomes a mildly hostile environment where the roots have to work harder to absorb nutrients and water. The plant does not show this on the surface. The leaves stay upright, the color remains acceptable. But underground, root tip function is being progressively compromised. One of the most telling early signs is a white, crusty deposit forming on the surface of the soil or on the outside of clay pots. Many growers see this and do nothing because the plant still looks fine. That surface crust is a visible marker of what has been building invisibly deeper in the root zone. Another sign is that the plant begins responding poorly to fertilizer, showing mild tip burn or a slight yellowing at leaf edges. Even when the application rate seems correct, the roots are struggling to process nutrients efficiently because the soil environment has become imbalanced. The practical response is a combination of occasional deep flushing, watering thoroughly until water runs freely from the drainage holes, for several minutes to push accumulated salts downward, and refreshing the soil every 1 to 2 years rather than leaving the same mix in place indefinitely. Switching to filtered or room temperature settled water can also reduce the rate of buildup. Problems 3 and 4 are closely connected, which is why they are worth covering together. They are soil compaction and pot material, two factors that most growers set once and never reconsider even as both quietly work against the plant over time. Soil compaction happens naturally in any potted plant, but it is especially damaging for snake plants because their root system depends on a loose, airy medium to function well. Over time, organic components in potting mix break down. Particles settle closer together, and the structure that once allowed air and water to move freely through the soil collapses. What remains is a dense, increasingly impermeable layer that holds moisture in the wrong way and restricts oxygen to the roots. A snake plant sitting in compacted soil can look completely normal while its root system is being slowly starved of the air exchange it needs. You may notice that water sits on the soil surface longer than it used to before slowly sinking in. That is a practical sign that the soil structure has deteriorated. The fix is not to water less, but to refresh the mix with a blend that restores structure, typically a combination of well-draining potting soil with added perlite or coarse material that resists compaction. Pot material connects directly to this. A plastic or glazed ceramic pot holds moisture longer than a terracotta pot, which breathes through its walls and allows the root zone to dry more evenly. For a plant like the snake plant that is highly sensitive to prolonged root moisture, the wrong pot material can mean the difference between a root zone that recovers quickly between waterings and one that stays damp long enough to begin breaking down root tissue. If your snake plant is in a sealed plastic or non-porous ceramic container, consider whether a terracotta alternative might give the root zone the air movement it actually needs. This is the 5th problem I mentioned at the start of this video, the one almost nobody considers and often the most quietly damaging of all. It is root zone temperature stress, and it operates completely below the surface in every sense. Most growers think about temperature in terms of room air temperature. They know snake plants dislike cold drafts and frost, so they keep the plant indoors and consider the temperature problem solved. But the temperature that matters most to a snake plant's root system is not the air temperature in the room. It is the temperature at the base and sides of the pot, where the roots actually live. And this is where a problem that is never discussed becomes extremely relevant. In many homes, snake plants are placed on cold floors, near exterior walls, on windowsill ledges exposed to cold glass, or on surfaces that stay significantly cooler than the ambient room air. A room might feel a comfortable 20 degrees Celsius at shoulder height, but a pot sitting on a tiled or concrete floor near an exterior wall may be holding a root zone temperature several degrees colder than that. Snake plant roots are sensitive to sustained cold at the root zone, even when the leaves are an acceptable air temperature. Cold roots slow down metabolic function, restrict water uptake, reduce the plant's ability to process nutrients, and create conditions where the roots begin to suffer low-level stress that never fully shows in the leaf appearance until the damage is advanced. The plant looks fine, the room feels warm, but the root system is working at a fraction of its normal capacity because the base of the pot is too cold for efficient function. The practical fix is straightforward. Lift the pot off cold surfaces using a pot foot, a wooden board, a cork mat, or any insulating layer that breaks direct contact between the pot base and a cold surface. This single adjustment is one of the most underestimated improvements a snake plant grower can make, and it costs almost nothing to implement. If your snake plant looks healthy but something still feels wrong, run through these 5 checks before assuming the problem is something obvious. First, check whether the plant is root-bound. Lift it out of the pot, look at the root system, and give it more room if it has outgrown its container. Second, think about how long that soil has been in place and whether accumulated mineral and salt deposits could be shifting the root zone chemistry against the plant. Flush the soil deeply or consider a fresh mix if the soil has not been changed in 2 or more years. Third, press a finger into the soil and notice whether it still has an open, slightly gritty texture or whether it has compacted into a dense, tightly packed layer. Compacted soil is a slow restriction on everything the plant needs. Fourth, look at the pot material and consider whether a more breathable option would allow the root zone to dry more evenly between waterings, especially if the plant has a history of root zone moisture issues. And fifth, lift the pot off the floor or off any cold surface and insulate the base. This one adjustment alone has recovered plants that appeared to be beyond help, simply because the roots were finally warm enough to work properly again. Snake plants are genuinely tough, but they fail silently. The problems that bring them down are rarely dramatic and almost never visible. They accumulate slowly, invisibly, and the plant keeps looking acceptable right until the point where it no longer can. Now you have the 5 checks that most growers never make. If this video helped you see your plant differently, please leave a like. It helps this kind of practical content reach growers who actually need it. Drop a comment below and tell us which of these 5 hidden problems you think might be affecting your plant right now. And subscribe to Plant ER Lab for more practical plant ideas that go deeper than the surface. Your plants will thank you for it.